Story 1. The girl I just started dating wanted me to stop seeing one of my friends, since he was, in her words, not very good looking, and that it reflected badly on me if I were to hang out with him. I decided to end that relationship as quickly as possible. The sad thing is she actually expected me to be grateful to her for trying to help me get a better social group. Thank you for the rewards, I didn't expect that. A brief addition since a few people asked. This happened in 2007. At the time, I was 30 and she was 26. I wouldn't necessarily call her a narcissist. Something suggested in the comments, that label I reserve for my ex-wife. She was more like immature and had a kind of narrow view of the world. Story 2. I only drink on days that end in Y. I used to date an alcoholic who saw nothing wrong with getting drunk every day and would blow off plans because she was hammered or hungover. Story 3. Mostly lying for me, I've been there, and you don't necessarily know this before the relationship, so it should be a relationship breaker. I did not follow this advice. Also, cheating should be an instant deal breaker. There is no excuse for messing around on anyone if you actually care. Story 4. Demanding to see my phone. It is much better to admit you are struggling with trust and that you feel insecure. I have got nothing to hide, and we can go through it if it helps solve the underlying trust issues. However, demanding it is just so possessive and belittling, and I feel it is a hallmark of the beginning of a toxic decline in the relationship. Story 5. Lying, irrational jealousy, clinginess. If I get even one text or call from your best friend or sister taking me to task about an issue between the two of us, don't even bother coming back. It's over. Edit. There is a comment here regarding abusive partners isolating their partner by banning them from discussing their relationship with others. Let me be clear because it seems this conversation is taking a different direction. For me, it is one thing to vent, discuss, seek advice, and guidance from other sources for the well-being of your relationship. However, it is quite another for those people who have a relationship with you to then call me and attempt to interfere on your behalf in our relationship. If, for instance, they suspect I'm abusive, their responsibility to you is to convince or advise you to leave me or report me for your safety. Of course, that is acceptable. My comment was simply about a partner who gives access to her friends into our private lives and then allows them to advise, discipline, and guide me. Story 6. I am a huge nerd. And you do not have to be a huge nerd. That's cool if you are not. However, occasionally I would like to be able to rant or go on about something nerdy that frustrates me or excites me. If you cannot handle this, then it is definitely a deal breaker. Story 7. If they are rude to people around them first thing in the morning, I dislike mornings too. I'm tired, and I dislike life when I first wake up, but I don't take it out on the people around me. Be grumpy if you want, but don't be rude. You're an adult. Act like one. If they are generally unmotivated, I understand not having everything together. That's fine in some cases if you are actively trying to improve the situation or at least putting in effort. It's when you don't have your act together and aren't doing anything about it or picking up the slack. Mistaking rudeness for bluntness. You can tell people the truth without being abrasive or rude about it. You aren't being blunt, you're being inconsiderate, and in some cases, you're just being opinionated. Thinking intimacy is one-sided, or thinking you don't have to put in more effort than you feel like, but expecting me to perform all of your fantasies and treat you like a pampered goddess. Using a mental illness as an excuse for unpleasant or abusive behavior. This is significant for me because I have diagnosed general anxiety disorder, and I take responsibility for my actions in mental health, even if triggered by someone or something else. One of the things I hate hearing most is, I have mental illness, so it's fine if it makes you act in certain ways, but you're still responsible for your actions and controlling yourself. Take your medication, practice mindfulness, learn breath control, do something to manage things. Communication in situations helps. If you are feeling triggered or any type of way, then speaking up is a lot better than having an outburst and acting in aggressive or passive-aggressive ways. Story 8. Asking me to get rid of my beard or to change how I dress. When I met my wife, I had a beard and she liked it, but I wanted to make sure that she liked me no matter what, so I shaved once just to see. But yeah, I've had a few people tell me they wouldn't be with me unless I looked different, and it made me back out of the situations. Story 9. hiding the relationship for whatever reason, continually talking about their ex or things related to the ex, possessiveness, clinginess, unhealthy attachment to their family, difficulty getting out of their comfort zone. Story 10. I really hate people being super late when meeting up. Like I had to wait 15 to 20 minutes with no texts or anything beforehand mentioning that they will be late. Story 11. I'm reading all of these, and as someone who had an abusive childhood, it hit me hard that I got involved with people who had most of the red flags mentioned in this thread. I didn't even realize it was abuse until I was having severe depressive episodes, and my therapist told me to find a women's shelter. I wish I knew better, but I'm getting there one step at a time. At least I know I'm being kind and respectful to others. I really hope to find someone who will love me, appreciate me, see my value, and be excited for me to be in their life. Story 12. A lot of answers here are not relationship deal breakers, but people to avoid before you get into a relationship. But once you're in a relationship, what are the more personal things that would be deal breakers? For me, it's not taking care of yourself, like not wearing your seatbelt, texting while driving, or not seeing a doctor when you really should. That's one. Another one is sexual incompatibility. If I'm at 3, my new love better be somewhere close to that, and not a 9. And vice versa. Want another one. Ambition. I want someone who is as ambitious as I am. Yes, it's a deal breaker. You know what's not a deal breaker? Whether they are an introvert or extrovert. I can work with either as long as they know it and understand how it works best for them. Story 13. The 10 Commandments, revised in 2020, by me. If they are married, cheaters, mental issues they refuse to address or seek help for, no goals or ambition, not creative, artistic, or having passions, has kids, sorry, not for me, not sexually compatible, not willing to be a partnership. I lift you up, you lift me up. We work together to make each other better people. No room for negativity or mental drain. Overtly religious. 10. Emotionally unavailable or toxic to themselves and others, not ready to be in a relationship. The creative part may sound a little harsh, but as an artist in many forms, I absolutely need someone to relate to that. If 70% of what I talk about is art and you're not into it, what do we have to talk about? Story 14. People who have to go into detail about how ugly and unattractive they find other certain people. I think everyone is a beautiful catch to someone, and no one gets to be a gatekeeper of what beauty is. Story 15. Inability to argue calmly. If there is a problem, we should be working together to resolve it, not insulting or name-calling the other person. Also, littering. Story 16. Not putting in the same effort as the other. I was in a relationship where I was clearly more into them than they were into me. I would take a holiday from work and plan to do things together, and they would cancel on that morning. At first, I kind of let it go, but it really started getting to me after a couple of times. I literally wasted my holiday on them and ended up doing nothing on those days, hoping they would change their mind at some point during the day. Pathetic, really. Story 17. I think at this point in my life, it would be someone who plays any type of emotional games. Talk about how you feel in a rational and composed manner without letting emotion determine your words. Story 18. Cheating, lying, not giving me attention. Call me clingy if you want. I don't care. If I can't at the very least text or call you regularly to tell you how my day was, then what is the point of even being in a relationship? Story 19. What is an automatic deal breaker for you when it comes to a relationship? Has children or wants children? For context, I don't have children and I had a vasectomy in 2011. Story 20. It's a weird one, but if we don't at least have some music taste in common. Music is a major part of my life, so if I can't mutually enjoy concerts with you, then I just don't think it's going to work out. Story 21. Affairs. I know it's something super obvious, but my dad had multiple affairs and didn't do much to hide it. My mom kept accepting him anyway and made excuses for him. In the end, she divorced him when I was 14 and the oldest of 4 brothers. My dad, being the utter scumbag he is, refused to pay child maintenance, even when the courts ordered him to. He eventually left for Nigeria to escape the authorities. In the end, it left my mom with severe mental health issues, And me trying to be the man of the house at 14, looking after my 3 younger brothers and helping my mom around the house along with my schoolwork. We had very little money and had to move several miles from where I'd grown up. I'm autistic, and that change was extraordinarily difficult. Besides the obvious consequences, after seeing what else affairs had done to my mom, our finances, myself, and my brothers, it's the one thing I'll never be able to forgive anyone for. Story 22. Not being self-dependent or not even trying to be self-dependent. Some people just love to stay dependent on others to get things done, which is a big red flag for me. Story 23. I've got 2. Smoking or any kind of tobacco use. I understand that addiction is addiction, but I lost both parents to smoking-related cancer, and I'm not going to lose another person I love to it. Also, any history of infidelity. I understand that people can make mistakes and can change, but the ability to cheat does not exist within me. The very thought of it makes me literally sick to my stomach. And the idea that someone else has that ability and once chose to act on it means that, despite it being dormant for years, it still exists. I cannot ever fully trust someone who possesses that ability. Story 24. Not aligned in values or life goals. If we don't have similar views on things like sex, politics, and kids, that kind of thing, I'm out. Also, people who are against religion are out. I'm fine with non-religious, but not actively against religion. Story 25. I was emotionally and physically abused by the first girlfriend I gave a shot with after my father died. Any sign of gaslighting or abuse and I'm gone. Lack of physical intimacy is the same. I'm not a sex addict, but kissing, embracing, and sex are important to me. Story 26. A fixation on traditional chivalry. I'm a lady, so you should, type of thing. Maybe I'm just unlucky or attract the type, but I see this kind of thing a lot and it instantly turns me off. It just comes off as super entitled. I'm not going to give myself anxiety over making sure that I'm fulfilling your weird, picturesque, unrealistic Disney fantasy. Story 27. Political fanaticism. I don't care about anyone's opinion in regards to politics because, in the end, nothing changes unless technology forces it to. If I went on a date and she was adamantly political, I'd suggest we cut the check and part ways. Story 28. Lack of empathy, intolerance. Signs of gaslighting, but usually I pick up on this way too late and narcissists excel at covering up this type of behavior. They will run circles around you in your mind, making you think you're the issue. Story 29. If they don't have good friendships that are outside of the relationship, this is a red flag for me. It's really important that both my partner and I understand that it is unrealistic to think that we could ever be each other's everything. Friendships are very important. Story 30. If she never stops talking, that's a level of conversational selfishness that I cannot stand and often feel secondhand embarrassment for people who talk nonstop without listening. Some of you all on Reddit probably do this. Think about it. If you're in a group and you've spoken for more than 2 minutes straight, stop talking and let someone interject. Everyone wants attention and to speak, not just you. This question triggered me too much. Story 31. Once a woman expressed a strong interest in me. This woman had been to jail for a few years for committing domestic abuse. That went pretty immediately into deal-breaker territory right there. Story 32. This woman rolled down a window as she was driving us home from Starbucks and threw an entire bag of trash out the window. She was immediately expelled and is now known as Trash Bitch. Story 33. Not standing up for me or having my back. I have had enough women in my life who have thrown me under a bus and abused me. Being anti-vaccine. You cannot honestly call yourself a respectable adult and refuse vaccinations when you received many of them growing up. Forming strong opinions without actually doing any research or independent thought. Again, this goes back to being a respectable adult. Not liking the friends that I have had since high school. If you cannot even try to get to know my friends, you do not get a pass. Story 34. 1. A woman who doesn't contribute at all, acts like she is a princess, and then complains about everything, never finding anything sufficient for her. A woman who would eventually list her job as housewife or mom. I need a woman who is independent, has a sense of self, and whose life doesn't revolve around me. Story 35. There are a lot of these that I feel don't show themselves to either party until some time into things. But there are warning signs for them all and should be listened to as an early warning of things to come. Story 36. I feel that in a truly committed relationship, there really shouldn't be such a thing as a deal breaker, other than some heinous act like murder or child abuse or something of that nature. Of course, in a perfect world, I would hope we could weed out such people to begin with. When you're deep in a relationship, that's when you really find out who understands the reality of what loving someone is all about. It's definitely not about candy canes and puppy dogs all the time. Love is having the intestinal fortitude to stay put even, or especially when you find yourself in hard times. That's when you realize loving your partner isn't just the way you feel when you have no real problems. It is a choice we consciously make when trouble starts to show up. Anyone can love you when there are no issues to speak of. But you can bet if you're with someone long enough, the problems will eventually arise. It would be so easy to quit and walk away like so many do today. Such a sad, disposable society we live in, where everyone and everything is easily replaceable. I can only assume that's why the divorce rate is so high. No one is willing to sacrifice for the sake of the relationship. I think maybe this is part of the driving force behind why we have an abundance of narcissists in our society. When you care more for yourself than the one you supposedly love, you will not make it. And until you learn to put your partner's happiness above your own, you're just wasting time in a relationship. You will fail. Of course, how wonderful would this world be if we all treated each other with the values needed to be successful? Patience, understanding, selflessness, consideration, long-suffering, commitment, kindness, the way you hopefully treated them when you first met. That's where true happiness is found. And of course, these are all done with an honest heart with no expectations of reciprocity. You will get back the same that you put out,